This week's Torah portion, the life of Sarah, has a puzzling start to it, Sarah's death. After Abraham buries Sarah, she is not mentioned again. Like other female figures in the Torah, she has, in previous portions, been mostly silent. What can we possibly say about her life when she seems to be marginalized in favor of Abraham? We are left to draw conclusions by examining what little Sarah does say, but the number of name changes as well as an examination of the surrounding text may provide some insight. To begin, why are so many verses devoted to Eliezer finding a wife for Isaac? Rabbi A.L. Scheinbaum writes that the story of Isaac and Rebekah takes up 67 verses, while the Ten Commandments, the focal point of the entire Torah, occupies only 14 verses. Why the apparent misplaced emphasis? The emphasis is there because it is a strong reference to the importance of Jewish continuity. Without a wife for Isaac and a child, the promise of God could not be realized. It was not just God's promise, but Sarah's dream. Abraham recognized this, and after properly mourning Sarah, arranges a search for Isaac's companion. The long, elaborate story is rich in detail and serves to underscore the importance of family. Sarah is the only woman in the Torah who God addresses directly. God blesses her with his divine presence, or the Shekinah, sometimes called the feminine aspect of God. However, this divine presence disappeared after her death and did not reappear until Rebekah took her place within Sarah's tent, which serves to indicate the importance of her position. Trying to understand who Sarah is requires comparing and contrasting her to Abraham. If we can move past gender identity or gender roles, we can see that they represent the personification of divine principles. Abraham is sowing the seed of ideas outwardly, while Sarah receives, develops, and cultivates them. They represent the principles of wisdom and understanding, two principles that, according to the Zohar, the Jewish mystical commentary on the Torah, are two friends that never part. There is a house blessing in our home that quotes the 24th chapter of Proverbs. Only through wisdom can one build a home, and through understanding it endures. Sarah represents the understanding upon which a home is based. Abraham knows, but Sarah understands. What Abraham knows cannot flourish except by Sarah. Abraham cannot understand except through Sarah. And conversely, Sarah cannot cultivate understanding unless she receives an idea or wisdom to develop. To put it another way, and to rephrase the quotation I just quoted from Proverbs, we can build our spiritual home by studying the wisdom of the Torah, but it is through the understanding of the Torah that we endure. So on an individual level, who are we? Abraham or Sarah? The answer is that we are both. The challenge is to see both in ourselves and in others. Both need and are inseparable from each other. This concept extends its influence into other areas of our life. What about the city we live in? What about our society? What about our government? And more importantly, the political candidates within that governmental structure? I think if we impose the statement from Proverbs, only through wisdom can one build a home, and through understanding it endures. If we impose that statement onto those structures and onto those candidates, we will have our answer. We need to build and endure, not destroy. The death of Abraham at the end of this portion is an appropriate bookend for this portion. For his life on all levels was so intertwined with Sarah's that to place his death in another portion, outside of this one would not make sense. This is a self-contained unit that ends the journey of our first matriarch and patriarch. Next week, we can begin with Isaac and Rebekah, chapter 2, continuity. Shabbat Shalom.